Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Monday, August 3rd, 2026. Welcome back. It's Monday. How was your weekend? Let me know in the comments. Hope you guys had a good weekend. That's right. My name is Hammer. I am the founder of Hammer Solutions, home of great products such as Originator Success, Grab and Go Social, and Rate Sensei. You should be sure to check them out. They help you as originators generate more business in 2026. So go and see what they're about. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting on Facebook and on YouTube, talking about what's going on in rates and pricing in the mortgage world and what we've got going on with the headlines and the technicals and all that good stuff. Today's lock advice at a glance. Down at the bottom, we're cautiously floating all loans, but we've got a much better outlook today than we did on Friday. That's for sure. Stick around and we'll talk about where rates are going and what we think is going to happen and all that good stuff. Welcome to the live, folks. Good morning, Holden Kelleralls, Rob Wilson, Sean Segaloff, Amy Blauser, Carmen Nwendo. If you're here this morning, do me a favor, say good morning in the comments. That engagement helps with the algorithms and it helps with the engagement, and it helps keep me sane. I don't feel like I'm sitting here talking to my phone, which is the camera that I use. That's why it's so clear. So also, my man said, Ron Siegel says, today is National Grab Some Nuts Day. Ron, who comes up with this shit? National Grab Some Nuts Day. Just make sure that the nuts want to be grabbed before you grab them. That's all I'm going to say on that one. That's all we're going to say. Good morning, Paul George, Robert O'Connor, Brandy Brickler. Almost not live, short attention span. You missed the that's the problem with sending the text out too early. Good morning, Sophia. Did you say hi to everybody? Whenever I start talking, you always come over. You think I'm talking to you. You always think I'm talking to you. You come over. You're like, hey, what's going on? Yeah. So, all right. Good morning, my friends. Angela Walters, good to see you. Ron Siegel, guess your comments are not working. No one is accusing me of being sane. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So remember, if you would like a reminder text that I'm going live, you can sign up at hmmr.io/reminder. If you type that in, if you're on your device, your phone, use this cool QR code over here. And if you are currently on that device, you can just take a screenshot and go back later, press and hold it, and it should open up that link. Sign up and get a text that I'm going live so you don't miss a moment of the show. Also, don't forget to sign up for our daily email that goes out at www.ratelockadvice.com. It's an email to your inbox each and every weekday morning about the markets and rates and pricing and all that good stuff. And you may want to sign up for our text alerts if you want to protect your pipeline. Get a text in the morning, a text wrap-up text in the afternoon, and then alert texts when we have big risks of reprices better and reprices worse. So check those out as well. All right, let's go ahead. Let's jump into the good stuff and get started. I'll kind of read through this and then we'll go over to the screen. Quick recap on what happened on Friday. It was a brutal start to the day on Friday. Morning rate sheets were ugly. On average, rates went up about 1/8 of a point. You guys saw that. Bonds still managed to end the day a little bit worse. Only a handful of reprices worse, though, on the day as that happened. Let me go ahead and pull this up and we'll kind of go over the screen. So you can take a look here. This was Friday. Everything in between this dotted line and this dotted line here. Going down is a bad thing on the line chart. You could see that bonds really, really drifted lower. Pricing came out right about here at 10 a.m. Bonds continued worse. However, most rate sheets were so conservatively priced because it started the day not too bad, and it just got worse by the time pricing came out. And you could tell that lock desks were pricing in this worse pricing that they thought was definitely going to come. But if you take a look this morning, we've got a big jump up this morning. So rate sheets today, almost like it never happened. Well, not quite that good. So if you take a look at rate sheet pricing here, you could see that we went from Thursday on the 30th, 6 3/4 ish. And then Friday, we were up to 6 7/8 ish. We went up about an eighth of a point. We're not going to go back down quite this good if you compare where things are at compared to Thursday. If we look at that 5-day chart again and zoom in a little bit on this, let's see if that, no, I got to refresh it to scroll over. Hold on a minute. If we zoom in on that little chart a little bit, you could see that generally rate sheet pricing was came out right about here. We are still quite a bit lower down here. You can see this is a downward line, right? So that means the pricing is likely to be worse this morning than what we saw on Thursday, but it's not going to be nearly as bad as what we saw on Friday. Since then, we've got a nice move upwards, and so we are definitely seeing some better pricing at that point. So that's good as far as what we've got going on this morning. Not quite as good as Thursday, but like it says on the screen, it is better than a stick in the eye. Reprice risk on the day is low. That kind of gets us talking about why we're seeing what we're seeing. So most of the improvements that we're seeing this morning are due to oil prices. You could argue some of it has to do with end of month trading on Friday. Part of it was what was going on with Japanese trying to prop up the yen and selling off treasuries, and there were some different variables definitely that played a role. Don't get me wrong. However, you can easily give credit today to oil prices that have absolutely improved quite a bit this morning. If you take a look here on, we ended at $90 on Friday, and we're currently at $83. So there's a big drop in oil prices, and that has to do with what's going on over in Iran and oil prices. So that's what's moving rates this week. You've got oil, Iran, labor data. Tomorrow we get the JOLTS data. We've got ISM data coming out this week, starting at 10 o'clock. That'll play a little bit of a role. And then what's going on with the Fed and possible Fed rate hikes, especially in September. That's going to play a role this week as well. The outlook for the next 15 days, we can cautiously float. If you got a loan closing in the next 15 days, we're cautiously floating for now. Remember on Friday, we didn't want to lock such an ugly day. However, going into the weekend, there was definitely concern that we were going to see continued military strikes in Iran, see oil prices push up from $90 to higher. And if oil would have moved higher, rate sheets would have been worse this morning is what we would have been looking at. Now, we did see, I'll go through some of these other articles in a minute, but this is the big reason oil prices have dropped. It's because, Iran saying that the Strait of Hormuz could open up to ship traffic. But it's funny, you got to read between the lines. These aren't negotiations between Iran and the US. These are negotiations between Iran and Oman. Oman, another country in the Middle East. And, this is discussions between them. And these discussions are different. Rather than like, hey, you need to open up the strait and let all the ships through, it's almost like, okay, we're going to charge money to get ships through here and they're going to pay. And we know we're not going to be able to do it together. So you do it too, and we'll all charge money. And I think that, this is what's going on. Now, at the end of the day, traders don't really care that ships are going to pay more for the money, for the oil to get them through, as long as it's getting through. You're not seeing oil prices drop all the way where they were back in February or before that, even when they were lower. But they're there. So Trump said on Sunday a deal to open the waterway may be close and that new unspecified talks with Iran would begin today. But again, if you read between the lines, it's kind of funny because the U.S. is not the ones that are in the conversation that's being had now. And that's a big deal. And when you take a look here, you know who was quick to point that out? The Iranians. hold on, I'm trying to see. The Iranian foreign minister again poured cold water on the notion of direct negotiations with the United States, told a press conference on Monday there's no immediate plan for negotiations with the US. Now, I don't necessarily believe everything that these guys say either because they're liars. But it's funny because on one hand, Trump will say, hey, this is what's going on, and then on the other hand, you've got this other thing that's being said of what's being done. He reiterated Tehran is currently only engaged in talks with Oman regarding the Strait of Hormuz. So Trump said on Saturday planned operation would have been the biggest since World War II, adding that the U.S. was ready to attack Iran. And that's why we had tough decisions to make on Friday. And in the end of day lock text, we even said, hey, you might want to lock some loans for protection, because if we had seen continued military strikes, and if the strikes would have been as big as Trump promised here, that would have meant that we would have opened up today to a really ugly rate sheet. So it's good for a bunch of reasons that didn't happen. I read the word handle there. So, but anyway, it's good that didn't happen. But for now, we want to just kind of see where the week starts, see where some of the data goes. We've got until Friday before we really have to worry about locking ahead of jobs data that could swing the week. The jobs data not likely to affect the outlook for a Fed rate hike in September, because the September meeting is September 16th, and there'll be another jobs report in September 4th. The other thing about that September data and the jobs data is, the Fed does not seem worried about the labor market right now. They seem worried about inflation. So unless there were to, even if it was a really weak report, it probably would get blown off by markets as far as affecting the Fed, but it would play a role in rate sheets. We're not likely to see rates move much, y'all. You can see here rates have been between 6 3/4 to 6 7/8, and that's kind of where we're at. And that's not going to change. You're not going to see rates that are going to get that much better. You're just seeing some improvement to pricing. And that's kind of what we're holding out for. Same thing with anything closing in the second half of August. We've got inflation data, CPI data coming in August 12th. Got a few variables, but you're looking for those days, the windows. When's a good day to lock in? And that's what you're really looking for. Better pricing. We're not likely to see rates trend lower than where they're at in the high sixes. The high sixes for conventional conforming, the low to mid sixes for Govy. That's where we're at. That's where rates are going to be. So we're going to keep seeing that. And then for stuff that's a month out, things closing in September and later in the year, there's no urgency at the moment to worry about locking any of those. Everything seems very calm as it is. So keep that in mind. So my daily rate advice, cautiously float. Mr. Morano asked, yes, that is it, my friend. I would be floating. And as I said, just to summarize it real quick, I would be floating today specifically, unless we start to see a sell-off, if we see bonds start to lose ground. But that's very unlikely because we're going to see oil prices remain and the 10-year treasury yields stay. But the 10-year treasury, it's back below 4.7, barely. 4.69 at the moment, but it closed at 4.74 on Friday. So that's a big jump. That's 5 basis points that it's lower right now. And that's certainly worth seeing. If it breaks 4.7, I'm not too worried about that. I'm not too worried about the technicals at the moment. It's the bigger thing is, what are we going to see for oil prices? Is this going to change? Is this go up? Then we have to worry about things and the outlook and overall everything going on there. Seeing new stuff from Austin, insights I didn't see from others, need to come back to GGS. Yes, come back, my friend. Come back. Check it out. Definitely would love to have you back. Sean Segaloff, I have carpal tunnel from clicking refresh. Well, don't be so eager, such an eager beaver. Give it a minute or two, my friend. I ramble at the beginning. So, all right. Any other questions? Anything else you guys want to cover? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up for today. I think that sums it up quite nicely. That's what we've got going on, my friends. It is a lovely Monday of a lovely week. The good news is that consumers have really come to terms with where rates are at. If you can keep it out of the sevens, even if they're paying a little bit, or if you find a way to do lender credit with rebate pricing or something, take a lower rate comp to get them under 7. I know you can't do that, but wink, wink. That's the key thing. That's the big hurdle is the sevens. If you keep them out of the sevens, people are, six and three quarters, six and a half. It's not really, six and seven eighths even. They're hearing it, but they're not really feeling it. It's only when it only becomes real when you start hitting things with a seven handle. And that's, with loan level price adjustments, though, you're probably pricing some loans definitely in the sevens. But if get them to pay a little bit, keep it down in the sixes. Would I take points right now? I mean, there's an argument, right? Why would we see rates improve? We'd have to see the economy start to weaken. We're not in a, we're not in a position where it makes sense that rates are really going to move that much lower in the next few months. Could it be a year? A year's a long time. A year's a long time. So anything can happen in a year. We could see rates that are in a better position in a year. But right now, we had our bite at the apple, and the orange man there, he kind of threw a wrench in the works. Tariffs, that was before even February's numbers, of course. And then, but now more tariffs and this whole Iran situation. And it's just kind of really exacerbated the inflation issue. And until that eases down, we need to definitely see inflation ease down, and then we can see Fed rate cuts. And but that's going to be it's got to ease down quite a bit. So we only saw one good report. Mike Tebow, I'm still advising a higher rate for a big rebate. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I don't disagree with that, and others may be doing the same thing. I mean, that's the value you bring to the table, is to make them, kind of push them out of that concern about what handle they have. Nobody likes the term "marry the house, date the rate," but the reality is that it makes sense. It does make sense. A lot of people that got rates in the sevens were able to get rates in the fives when they refinanced early in the year. And getting a house, it's never a bad idea to buy a house, because even by me, they keep going up in price. They're not going down. There's pockets where they go down. I know different pockets in the US, but not big pockets. Ron Siegel suggests seller credit for a permanent buy down. Yeah, I mean, if you can get it, but depending on how you can use the seller credit, that's still basically borrower money. I would do a temporary buy down before I would do a permanent buy down right now, but that's just me. But that's the beauty of this. It's all, it's all a point of view. So, but all right, my friends, I'll see you tomorrow. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.